All right, sorry about that. But back to what I was saying about the whole beta stage of the game. I feel like since it was still in beta, they had time to fix it because they said when they're turning the game off right now, that's why it's taking a whole year for it to come back. They're working on trying to change the netcode and see what they can do about making it better. They're already planning, I'm pretty sure, on more DLCs and stuff like that. So I don't feel like with it coming to that, I don't feel like they needed it to address it immediately right then and there, because if I remember correctly, they did make little changes to the netcode and little changes to it, and because I remember there were other like little things and like some of those updates that they would do and like changes to characters and stuff. They changed little things every now and then, but I guess it was because people thought that the game was out, that it's like, okay, either it just sucks and they're not gonna change it, or they're gonna work on trying to change it in the future. And people weren't looking at it because I wasn't looking at it like this admittedly, but when they said it was a beta still, I forgot about that and it reminded me, oh, they still got time to change this because technically the game hasn't released. When this comes back online, we don't know if this is gonna be the full release of the game. This might be like a second beta version of it. Like, I know some people, like you said, don't like how it came out in terms of the beta was super long and prolonged. But I think Max said something about it. You watched the full video, so you might remember him saying this recently. He said something like, them having the beta up this long, some people might say is a negative, but it also be a positive because they have now months of data and experience to look at and go and change it. Now, what they do with that months of this game being online, what they do with that now is completely in their hands, and they do what A, they are able to, and B, what they think is right. Because I don't think Player First, which is the people that make this game or are the developers of this game, I don't think they don't care about the player base. Because I mean, you wouldn't have their social media talking to people and asking people what they want to see changed and what they want as much as they do, because you don't see other companies doing that. You don't see Arc System Works going and being like, hey, what do you guys want to see? What characters do you want to potentially have in the game? So it's like,
their fucking service still aren't fucking fixed. So I completely agree with that. Yeah, and I definitely didn't say that they don't care about their fans at all.
I'm not saying that you said that.
Yeah, honestly, I completely agree with what you were saying because I was playing it so much and like so competitive, like on a competitive level, trying to push for that number one spot or top two spot. I definitely can say that I definitely did forget that it was in beta. So I guess that's why I'm so upset, because I was enjoying the game so much that I tricked my mind into thinking that that it was definitely already complete, and then I was just complaining about the netcode and everything. But I do want to say though, if they do come back in that year's time and fix the netcode and everything, and there's more content and actually more skins. And see, me, I'm kind of weird. Like, I like the banners or whatever. Like, I like going into loading into a game and somebody see a fire ass banner. Like, I like doing shit in style. Now, that's how I always am with every type of game. That's why I like Mortal Kombat 11 too, because I was the top Sonya Blade over there as well. And like the customization that you could do with it is crazy. Like, you could put headgear and pieces on and whatever and look like a completely different like character, and then you have another person playing the same character but y'all look completely different. I like shit like that. I like doing shit in style. I'm a very like stylish person. So honestly, I will say, if they come back in that year's time after the hiatus or whatever you want to call it, and the netcode's fixed and we got more content, I will say that I will be happy and cut them more slack, and I will come back. But I'm just worried that other people won't feel the same way as me. Just like Max said, like, it really could hurt them, but for doing it this way, but it really could benefit them though. It just depends on the player base and how they feel. So yeah, so I really just hope they come back and fix all that and and people still enjoy the game, because I really do actually love that game. I
Yeah,
just had to stop playing it for certain reasons.
I mean, we all stopped playing it for certain reasons, but like the main consensus between all three of us is that all three of us stopped playing because the net code was bad. And for you and me,
Right.
Joe, it was the net code with other stuff. For JD, he left mainly because of the net code, from what he said initially. But like, yeah, the net code was arguably the worst thing about it. And they specifically in that video that Max watched, he said the developer Tony, I forgot his last name. Tony said specifically they're working on improving netcode and other things. So I'm like, okay, the netcode was obviously the biggest thing that people were talking about, besides like rosters and characters that other people wanted to see and other balancing things that they didn't do well. And it's like, yeah, you want to see them do it better, and they have the ability now to do it better. So I look at it like, yeah, you're right. This going and turning the game off, when it comes back, the game might not do as good because they might not do what they need to do to fix the game. But you now have a bunch of people telling you what you need to do, and you now have the data and numbers to back up. We had the game in beta for this long. We see what they want. We see what the game needs to have happen. It's in their hands now to fix it, because they have the ability to fix it. And I'm not saying that fix it is get back to over the 100,000 people playing it that they had at launch, because like you said, fighting games are going to have drop-offs. But if they can at least get it to where 10,000 people are playing it again, that's really good. Fairly good.
That's a W in my eyes. Yeah, that's perfect.
I mean, shit, Fighters on PC on Steam gets like 1,000, a little over 1,000 people playing it every now and then. And Fighters is still considered a fairly popular game, even though it's not as hyped as it is because it's older. But it's like, Fighters has about over 1,000 people on it. Multiverse was somewhere in that range. It's just the drop off from how high it was so much that people were like, damn, the game done dropped off and it's dead, because like a bunch of people dropped off. It's like, well, yeah, the game's gonna have some drop off naturally, and then like you said, them not doing what people want initially in that beta, it's like, yeah, it's gonna have a negative effect on the game. But that was the thing that oh, go ahead.
Right, and just another thing, since we're speaking on the netcode, I know people are probably like, oh, but y'all, netcode's always been a problem. I mean, look at Fighters. We still don't have rollback for that. Look at Guilty Gear Strive. I don't know, even Street Fighters or whatever. But I feel like in those type of games, even though the netcode isn't the greatest, I feel like it's not a game killer for those type of games. Like, because it still kind of works. Like, okay, you may get into a game on Fighters and it'd be like, the frame delay like fucking 6 frames or something like that. The game is still playable. I mean, nobody wants to be in a game and have 6 frames delay, but I mean, it's still playable, you know, as long as y'all got good connection and you're not lagging and everything, it's still good. Same with Strive. You get in the lobbies, may take you a little bit to get a little game, but once you get in, it's still playable, you know. But for Multiverse, I feel like the net code has to be perfect in order for it to work, because for that type of game, the net code was so bad to where like it literally was unplayable. Both parties could have amazing internet, could have that fiber internet, that motherfucking Xfinity LAN cable, motherfucking straight green bars, and it would still be unplayable. You got motherfuckers skipping around, you got people falling, and then you on your screen, you're falling under the map thinking you died and you really didn't even die. It literally was just unplayable. And then especially if you were playing the twos, you would get disconnected a lot. So, you know, we're not just talking about the netcode, because we get fighting games and the netcode can be trash, but we still play through it because it's playable. But with Multiverse, that shit will literally make you want to drop the game because it's unplayable. They have to fix that. And I feel like this is the main that they gotta fix. Like, forget the content and everything. If people can't enjoy the online play and play with their friends without like lagging, even though you have good connection, there's a problem there. But just like, you know, again, what Nas said, the game really is in beta. So I just feel like they really just need to fix that. Like, if they listen to their fans or whatever and really figure out what the problem is, when they come back, this game should be great and have a decent player base. Just like you said, I'm not expecting it to have 100,000, but it should definitely be in the thousands still, because it's a great game. They just got to fix the shit.
Yeah, and that's like the main things that they gotta fix. But JD, you haven't got to speak in a while. Go ahead and just engage in this.
I was just wanting to let y'all talk,
I mean,
obviously.
He just
you know,
wanted us
you
to
just be
cook.
chilling and
He,
shit, but
he,
people be looking like, damn, he ain't said nothing
I'm gonna
since the
let him
start.
cook. He said, I'm gonna let him cook.
He said,
Yeah,
yeah, because
like,
they went through the
just
shit
let the
longer than
folks
me.
cook, just let them be them. But so this was the very first platformer that I actually like learned how to play.
Oh yeah,
Because
because you
Smash,
didn't
I
play
just played
Smash.
it casually
Mhm.
because like it's on Nintendo, and Nintendo is known for not having great online. So
Shit
like I never
online.
tried to take it seriously. But I have experience in other fighting games like Tekken and Street Fighter, KOF, MK. Like I played fighting games my whole entire life, so like for me that was cool.
Yeah, like
So
for the people that don't know, he is technically the most experienced of all of us in here. It's just in this one specific instance, we technically played more than him because he stopped
yeah,
playing
they
early
definitely
on.
played a lot more than I did.
Yeah, he's normally the
Yeah.
veteran though. But go ahead.
Like the very first like month or so, I ain't gonna lie, it was a struggle. But like I learned games pretty fast. Like after like a week or so, I felt comfortable. I think the craziest thing that happened was like my very like first 2 weeks of the game. I played Key One Dr. If y'all know him, he's a pro Wonder Woman player at the time. I don't know if he still plays the game anymore or not, but that was crazy. That was a fun time too. My main reason for dropping the game for me mostly is netcode, obviously. Like that's the main reason that I don't play a lot of fighting games nowadays. I feel like online now more than ever is very important
Mm-hmm.
because this is like no longer the era to where like we're not going to deal with just shit online no more. Especially,
Which
it is
is
very important.
Yeah, which is crazy because this game also did come out with rollback. Like how Joe was talking about with Guilty Gear, both those games technically have rollback in them. It's just for this game, the rollback just didn't save it.
Yeah, it's just unplayable
But go ahead.
Yeah,
at
but,
times.
but for this game specifically, I think I dropped it like after I want to say a month or two. I think I probably main reason for me for that is just because of the netcode. But another thing that kind of frustrated me about this game is particularly like the first few months of the game, the Multiversus team, they were very, very good at communicating, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like there was also a lot of people who like complained about characters and such from like very early on from like the start of the game. And one of the issues for me that I have with this game in particularly, they patched this game way too much.
Yeah,
Way too much.
it's one of those hidden curses of this game because, like you said, this is one of the rare games where I can say the developers and the people behind this game are actively listening a lot more than some other bigger ones. But it also comes at a negative because if they listen a little too much, they might listen to the wrong audience, which is the one that's speaking out about shit that they shouldn't be listening to. And it's the fighter's effect of, hey, this is broken. We're gonna tell the developers about this. So they changed it. And now they're changing a bunch of stuff about a bunch of people, and they didn't need to change it to the degree that they did.
Right.
Go ahead.
But so like by the time like I mostly played Arya for the most part because Arya was really the only character that I really liked learning because like she wasn't an easy character to really play. Like you really had to like learn how to use her because compared to other characters. But it felt like every time I tried to learn the character, it's like the next week I have to relearn the character again. And for me, that got annoying, like hella quick.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
And I'm just
I
like,
agree
bro,
with that.
I just learned this combo a week ago, and then the next week the combo no longer works. So then I was just like, eh. So that was another minus for me for this game, especially besides the netcode, of course.
Yeah, because those are like, well, before I cut you off, those are like two of the main points that people talk about. It's the netcode and then the balancing of the game was handled poorly.
Yeah, the balance in the game was just like overall. And then for like certain stages, I feel like shouldn't have been like when the main thing I also complained about for the longest was a rank mode because I really wanted to play raid for this game and such. But like certain stages that should not have been in ranked were still in ranked that I didn't agree with either.
Yeah, because fucking hate that haunted mansion, bro. That's
Yeah,
that
Haunted
one
Mansion
map.
stage is like one of them because
Yep,
there's
yep.
a lot of times to where like you'll try to get a kill, but like the stage will save them and then you'll lose the game essentially, and it's kind of like,
Yeah, but I will give them credit because well, you weren't playing when this happened, but Joe was me were playing still when it happened. They did eventually add a non-roof Haunted Mansion so that shit didn't happen. But me and Joe definitely complained about that shit for so long in that game, because it's like, bro, that was the one map. Because there were some bullshit maps. That was one of the maps that was just annoying for no reason. Because it's like, yeah, the roof concept is cool and all, but it's like, bro, that roof saves your opponent so many times, and then you die just going straight up through the middle. And then it's like, but they fucking lived because the roof saved them. And it's like, bro, that's annoying as hell. But yeah,
and
like
then
certain
playing on
maps.
that map with the fucked up netcode. Shit,
Oh yeah,
man.
you was getting launched and dying and didn't even know it until you actually died. But yeah, that was another thing that they definitely, I'm glad they changed. But I think it's a thing where you can choose the option to not play that map anymore. But I don't know specifically, but I think it is like that.
And then also there was another thing about this game too, but I really forgot what it was besides like those two in general. And then like, oh yeah, that's why I was like, another reason I dropped this game for sure too is like death for sure. I'm one of those people who like really like to like learn. I'm telling you straight up, I'm one of those people. I'm not really a nerf type of person for a character. I'm one of those people to where like, unless the character has something that is like insanely broken, most of the time I'm just gonna lab it to figure it out to see if it's broken or not. And that was another problem I had about this game too, with the community, especially like with like characters like Taz when he first came out, because everybody complained about his tornadoes and shit like that. But like, if you actually labbed against his tornado, it wasn't even that bad.
Yeah, and then they fucking made Taz worse by giving him the ability to eat all projectiles.
Yeah, and essentially they just made Taz worse as a character. And then like with the balancing with the game in general, it's just like, I feel like they didn't really know what to do with the characters like Bugs, for example. Because Bugs at the time, he was really fucking good. But I feel like they just didn't know how to balance him correctly. And then like,
they
the
fucking
Bugs
made him
thing
shit.
will tell you, Nas will tell you that they did not know how to fix that, man.
I'm telling you, after double rockets and they got rid of that shit, it was just never the same. Like, even not using double rockets, Joe would see that shit in my videos. There are times where I'm swinging the bat, don't hit them. I'm shooting projectiles at them, they don't do anything, or they don't die. And I'm just like, bro, it's hard as hell to kill some of these characters or even get a hit. Because, like, I think that happened in like the tournament run we did that me and Joe had. It was like, bro, there were just times, and this would just happen in ranked in general when I was playing with Joe. He'd notice it. It's like there are times where I just can't hit anybody, like dead ass. I'm chasing after them, swinging my attacks at them, and I just can't hit anybody. But then I get hit so easily, and then it's like, bro, I don't got shit to do to combat that. And then especially when you give Taz the ability to eat all my projectiles and throw them back at me, it's like, what am I supposed to do? I can't even shoot out my safe without him eating it and then throwing an anvil at me that does, I think, damage relative to what my rocket or my projectile would do. Because then it's like, well, now none of my projectiles are good and he's just gonna eat them all, so I might as well not even shoot him. But now that's an integral part to his character, so now that he's not shooting projectiles, it's like, well, what are you gonna do now? The balancing in that game definitely was something else.
Yeah. But like, yeah, I feel like a lot of stuff they went wrong with. But to touch up what JD said, like how he was saying, you know, how he felt like he had to learn his character over like almost every day, basically. That's how I felt whenever I was playing Rick. First of all, I was a Harley Quinn main, right? And I mean, to be honest with you, I played her, so I'm gonna say she was pretty OD and a little bit broken, and she definitely had this infinite combo that you could do. But see, I never was the type of I learned the combo, but I always did my own sort of infinite combo. It wasn't really infinite. I still gave people a chance to get out of that shit because I wasn't toxic like that. You know, and I really, you know, labbed and really learned how to play the character. But I just felt like she was too easy. So when Rick came out, he was actually kind of one of those harder characters that took me a little bit to learn and get good with. Just like how like I would be playing with Nas, and he really could vouch and say that I really was like one of the good Ricks, because there were people that were picking Ricks and he just like doing whatever, not really knowing what they were doing. You know, just spamming shit and all that, weren't really taking the time to really get to know how to use the character. But the problem that I had, and he actually made a couple videos on the patch notes, and it definitely put me in some of them, and knew that I was hot about the patch notes because they were nerfing him for no reason and just literally making him just worse. So like I just had to literally keep changing my play style and my game style around these patches, and like I don't understand why they were doing that, because after he came out, he was, I wouldn't say he was broken, but he definitely was top tier. And then they nerfed him after he first came out, and I felt like he was balanced, but then they nerfed him again. So it's sort of like the same thing like with bugs, like and what JD said, like I think they were having trouble like really figuring out what to do with their characters and how to make them work in the game. So they, they went a bad route with just nerfing them without really taking the time to really understand what makes that character good and what makes them bad. They just were nerfing them and just literally making them unplayable at times. And it was really getting annoying because you really enjoy playing that character, but they're nerfing the shit out your character for no reason and not even understanding what they're doing. And then it's just like hard for you to compete against these other characters. And that goes back to what Nas was saying. He didn't really think that characters were broken. And honestly, now that I think about it, he's right. They just didn't know how to handle their characters, I feel like. And it was making our characters seem like they weren't really good. But the problem is they were nerfing them so much that they just didn't stand a chance against the other characters that weren't nerfed as bad. You know what I mean? So I feel like there really was no balance in Multiverse, and with anything that they dropped, there was no balance with nothing. There was no balance with the netcode, no balance with the characters, no balance with the perks. Like there was no balance. Like it just was a clusterfuck.
Yeah, I definitely can say that, because like one of the characters like that like is a stark reminder, because I remember this is, and JD will probably remember this. You remember how JD, when, and Joe, you too, because you playing at the beginning of the game, you remember how when Garnet came out, Garnet was like not very good, like very, very low in terms of like if you put her on the tier list, she's in like on the lower half. And then Joe, you remember how towards the end of the game, before we stopped playing, how Garnet was like a top pick and Garnet was piecing you up every time you went against her? It's because like during like, because I was looking at all the patch notes, obviously every patch note was a Garnet plus, and then it's Bugs down. It's like, why are you nerfing Bugs when he's not even a top character, but you're steadily bringing Garnet up while also keeping characters like Iron Giant in that middle range of, he used to be really good, now he's like not top tier, but he's like right below it in terms of he's still like one of those characters that if somebody just casually picks him and knows they're doing, they're going to be a problem, but it's not to the point where Iron Giant is just far and away the best character in the game. But it's kind of like how you said, poor balancing in a sense, because Garnet went from bottom tier or lower tier to higher tier, and it's like, okay, that's what you should be doing for all characters. But then you're nerfing Bugs, who didn't do anything at the top for a while now, and now he's like a lower character in my opinion, and he's staying there. But then you're raising Garnet, but then you're bringing down Rick, who just came out, but then you're buffing Gizmo for some reason, then you nerfed him down, and then it's like, at the same time, LeBron, you're nerfing him one patch, and the next patch you're buffing him, and you would think that'd be balanced. But no, it's not, because you're like not keeping it consistent, because on one patch you'll nerf them and it seemed like the nerf came out of nowhere for no reason, because it didn't seem like the character needed to be nerfed, but then you're bringing him up, but they're not substantial buffs, they're just like maybe a slight tweak to his attack timing, like the frame data on it. You'll increase his frames, or you'll lower his frames or with recovery or something like that. Something that's like a minuscule change. So not something that's going to be apparently different, or not making his buttons better, not changing his hitboxes to hit more consistently on certain things. It's like you're changing things, but you're not changing the things that you need to be changing about all the characters, because you're focusing on some of them making them better, but then you're focusing on some and making them worse. when
Exactly.
oh
And uh and for example, like one of the bad nerfs, like for Rick, right? When he came out, the only big thing that really was a problem with him was his what do they call him? His Meeseeks, right?
oh yeah, how
Meeseeks
people
and his
spam Macy's box.
and his charge rifle, right? Now
Hmm.
the problem with both of those was with the charge rifle, right? There was no cooldown on that, so you can continue to hold the button and get the charged gun as many times as you want. Now I feel like there really was a problem with that, and
Yeah.
then with the Meeseeks, there was no cooldown on that at all. So now I agree with the patch that they did with that, because they made it to where you can't spam the charge rifle, and then they made it where the cooldown is a little bit longer for the Meeseeks. Now that was good, but then where I had a problem is they ended up nerfing him again after he was already balanced, because those were the only two things that made him quote unquote broken, right?
Hmm.
But then they end up nerfing his speed. He
Yeah,
was
and make him
already
a slower
slow
character.
enough.
Yeah,
So
because that's one thing I will say. He wasn't like a speedy character. He wasn't like a Gizmo, who was a small character running around the screen fast and getting from left to right fast. Rick was not one of
yeah,
those characters.
yeah. So it's like I don't really understand what they were doing, because they took away the stuff that made him OD and good, right? But
Hmm.
then you just made him even worse by taking away all the good stuff, and then you nerfed his speed on top of that.
Yeah, like
So you just
little.
made him like a tank. The only reason that the Meeseeks and the charge rifle was even OD in the first place is because he felt like he was fast. So I felt like they didn't really. It goes back to what we were just saying. It feels like, well, what JD was saying. It feels like they really didn't know what was wrong with their character.
This man Joe died. Joe, you good?
Yeah, I think he died for a second.
Damn,
Hold
Joe,
on.
Joe died. I'm gonna finish his point. I think that he was trying to say was that they didn't know with their characters and they were just changing stuff. Cause yeah, like I look at the patch notes and there'd be something like, you made this character heavier. I'm like, okay, that's not really doing much to this character, because it never felt like they were super light and agile. It was just like some of those patches just seemed random and unnecessary, and some of the like changes especially were just like, I'd love to talk to the developer, because I would on some of those patches be like, why did you change that? Because I feel like, and it's the typical thing of, sometimes the community asks for stuff that they don't really need, but they're asking for it just because it seems like it's a prevalent thing, and then it's like, oh wait, no, it's not prevalent. You're really negatively affecting the game instead of positively affecting the game. So I feel like there needs to be that balance of, yes, there are some things that are broken that the community needs to speak on and talk about, but at the same time, sometimes you don't listen to the community, because if you listen too much, they're gonna steer you in the wrong direction, and only the game is gonna suffer for it. But since Joe isn't here, I'm assuming, to say anything else. JD, anything last you want to say before we wrap this up?
Um, I say personally, um, I really hope they can really come back, because for a game, no matter what game it is, it's very hard for any fighting game to like come back. But one thing I do want to stress with developers enough, please communicate with your community that people are playing your game for.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the biggest turnoff for like any game in just general. I mean, that's what happened with DNF Duel. The way that game is going right now, a lot of people are losing faith in that game because the communication for that game is not the best.
Mm-hmm.
Fighters, same thing. The rollback. Honestly, it's just gotten to the point I don't even care about the rollback for fighters anymore, just because like now that Street Fighter 6 and like the new Grand Blue, the new Mortal Kombat, and the new Tekken's coming out, I honestly don't even care when we're getting rollback for that game at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So now I will say I am glad that they decided to, like, when they take the year break, to make people play offline so people can still play Parsec and stuff like that. But if this game doesn't come back great online, or if it doesn't do well when it comes back, the game's just overall going to be finished for that.
Yeah,
So I just pray for the developers that like they actually like study what everybody was complaining about, and like overall just make the game into a game that they always wanted to make it, essentially.
They basically just make the best game that you're trying to make.
Yeah.
And last thing is, I would ask Joe, but he keeps dying, so I'm assuming he's done. If he comes back in, I'll ask him. But like I said, last thing I want to say is the game was fun. It has the things about it that's positive. Just like you said. The one thing I will give this game credit for, and we did say this earlier, is this development team behind it seemed like they care enough to actually communicate with us.
They really care. Like when the game first came out, they was communicating about everything. So like, yeah,
so that doesn't seem like it's a thing that's an inherent problem with this team. They seem to care. They seem to, value communication and talking, and that is a good thing because not all companies value that, and especially not all companies say that, because some will say it and then don't say anything.
Yeah, and then don't do anything about it months later.
Yeah, so this will get this development team player first. I definitely will give them that as a props. They definitely do that. Like I said, the main things with me is that you gotta fix the online, because that's one thing me and JD screamed about since the start. Servers being in the West Coast and us, all three of us in this call, me, JD, and Joe, being on the East Coast, it's like, bro, we're already at a disadvantage, and now for me, I was playing mostly 2v2s, they were playing 1v1s. If they ran into somebody in their 1v1s that had shit internet, it was automatically gonna be bad, because all of us, I think, over here, three of us run Ethernet cables, so it's like if the player playing against us has bad internet, there's nothing we can do. Me being in 2v2s, that's just a higher chance for the two people I'm playing against shit internet, and then the whole game is bad. So it's just
eventually it just maybe just switch to twos eventually.
Yeah, it's like you gotta fix the online and fix the balancer. But yeah, just basically the main thing you gotta do is just fix the online, change the netcode up to get it more playable to where people are wanting, and I feel like everything else at that point they can handle, because it's not like they during this whole period never dropped any cosmetics, never changed anything up, never added new things to the game. They've been constantly doing that the entire time. So it's like, I feel like if they get those major things out of the way, the rest of the little things will come in, like DLCs that people want. I feel like they'll do that because they listen to the community. I definitely don't think this is a team that's not gonna try to get Cartoon Network stuff that people want in the game and other big characters and stuff. They don't seem like they're not trying to get it. I guarantee they get bombarded with it enough to where they've asked Warner Brothers, and it might have been just purely that this is the beta, so they didn't want to release any big heavy hitters. And it's like, yeah, technically during your beta you should release some big heavy hitters every now and then, but it's like at the same time, if they drop Ben 10 when this game like officially drops, already know it's gonna be hype. People come back for it. It's Ben 10, so it's like, I don't fault them for it, but there are some things that they did manage poorly and did do wrong, but it's ultimately stuff that they can fix and do better in the future, because like you said, the game ain't out yet, so anything can happen, anything can change, and at the end of the day, we only want the best from Multiversus, because it admittedly was fun at times. It's just got less and less fun the longer it was out, so let's hope that they fix that. Like I said, Joe ain't here, so I'll ask him later when this is over what he thinks, and if I remember, I might put it like in the comment at the bottom or something like that. But I'll see y'all next time. Let me know in the comments down below how y'all feel about Multiversus and what y'all feel like they should change. But I'll see y'all next time. Like this video, subscribe if you're new. I'll see y'all next video. Peace. Girl so cute, she's so kawaii.